Recording, yes.
Greetings and welcome to the May Peace Prevail on Earth room, hosting events during World Unity Week. And now we have a very special presentation, Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons, a theme that is so close to all of our hearts. And I would like to present the moderator, Modica Willard, to you, who will lead us in this presentation with all of our beautiful speakers. Modica?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to both Facebook and to this special Zoom event. It is being sponsored by Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons, which is a cooperation circle of the United Religions Initiative. We have both members and guests, and I have to start by saying that thank you to Kehkashan Basu, who helped arrange the special guests. We've had a wonderful collaboration bringing us together to address this critical issue, abolishing nuclear weapons. And we have voices of inspiration, voices from both the artist and someone who is holding a very special place. Kathleen, we look forward to your story. But we are starting today with Bishop William E. Swing, the Right Reverend William E. Swing, who is the founder and president of the United Religions Initiative. We usually start with the nuclear prayer, but we're going to end it with that, Bill. So I am going to have us just start with you, because you are the one who brought this issue to the United Religions Initiative. And you not only have led and envisioned the largest grassroots organization, interfaith organization in the world. You served as the Episcopal Bishop of the state of California for 25 years. And you have brought people from the religious, from the secular, to bring us together to focus on the importance of dealing with nuclear weapons. And you also are the originator of the nuclear prayer, which does remind us that we are holding the fate of this planet in our hands. That is the level of inspiration you start with, and we would like you to address this group and talk about your experience around empowering people to take this into their hearts, into their minds, into their actions. Thank you for being with us, Bill.
Right, thank you. I think the basic need of a human being is to have some kind of cosmic humility, that we're not the center of the universe. We only have a little time on this planet. We only have a little bit of space to inhabit for a while. The enterprise of life has gone on for billions of years before us, and hopefully will go on billions of years afterward. So all is all in God at the last. But in the meantime, that's the big thing, is in the meantime, we have to get out of the making our everyday thoughts and matters of the heart be our own, being central to the universe. We've got to make some space for unity, the unity of all the nations, the unity of all humanity, the unity of animals and humans and things that grow. We have to, in terms of unity, we have a lot of growing up to do. We're probably a little beyond infancy, and youth. We're probably into our teenage years of rebellion. Rebellion, like, it doesn't matter if we pollute the world. It doesn't matter if we have the bombs to destroy the world. There's no unity. It's all about me and my time and my interest. when it's really not. There's a unity that was here before we got here, and there's a unity that's going to be here after we're gone. And the trick of being a real human is to live into the unity, that it all fits together. And all we have to do is just our part. I don't think you could have a united religions unless you were working against the proliferation of nuclear weapons, unless you were working for nuclear disarmament. Anything that could destroy it all has to be addressed, has to be taken on as the enemy it is, the evil that it is. Blowing up the world, radiating all the creatures, messing up all the water, all the air, that's not sort of a bad thing. That's a deeply blasphemous, evil thing. And not to have any vision of what's going on, and not to have any courage to address it, would be the ultimate backing away from our humanity and what we're called to do. There is a righteousness, and that righteousness will judge us in the end. There's always a day of reckoning. I tell you, right now, I'm moving from one house to a condo. And I'm getting every box. I'm looking under every bed. I'm in the garage. I'm seeing everything in my life is right there in front of me. That's just a little example of a reckoning. There comes a day when you got to move, and you got to do something with everything that you've purchased, everything that you've treasured. And so and a lot of it you got to throw away. A lot of it, you think it's worth something, but the world doesn't. Even so, our value system, we keep throwing money at weapons that cannot be used, must not be used, morally, physically, every way. So a human being's got to do something. And what we do in Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons is that we give people an avenue. If you want to do something, we'll give you a way to do it. If you want to learn more, we'll give you a way to be educated. If you want to take action, we're going to give you a way to do that. We're not the whole ball game, but we're something. We really do exist, and we really are all over the world. And we really do touch the lives of a lot of people. And if our moral fire is burning, it'll be contagious. So, World Unity Week. I'm so glad it's here. I'm so glad we're part of each other, and we got a lot to do. And thank you for giving me a voice. And I look forward to who's talking next and what happens next. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. Your voice is always important and inspirational. You have just inspired so many people. And I am so grateful to be able to have someone follow you who has also inspired so many people. Senator Douglas Roche, you have inspired me for years. I've heard you so many times at the UN. I am so grateful that you are with us today. You were a former Canadian senator, parliamentarian, diplomat, and author. You have the Middle Powers Initiative. You're the founder and chairman emeritus of that. And I want to read exactly what this is because it is such a powerful organization, an international network of 8 international non-governmental organizations specializing in nuclear disarmament issues. You have led this charge for a long time in the with legislation, with emphasis. And so we bridge now from the religious and the spiritual and the moral side to it. as you carry that with you into the parliamentarian side. Welcome, Senator Roche.
Thank you very much indeed for this invitation. And I have to say immediately what an honor it is for me to speak immediately following Bishop Bill Swing, whom I consider one of the great religious leaders of today. And I was taken by his phrase, cosmic humility. And I think Bishop Swing, I'd like to dare to speak in these next few minutes with some cosmic humility. I've been in this field for a long time, and I recognize its many complexities, and how we have to reach out beyond ourselves and to recognize that we are part of God's continued development of the planet. And that does bring us into a cosmic sort of responsibility. And we have to approach it with some humility. If we do not, it will become overcome by the complexities of the problem that we're facing. I speak to you from Canada, where one of the leading newspapers, the Hill Times, covers Parliament Hill, today published an article saying, well, if people are against nuclear weapons, why do we still have them? And in Canada, there was a poll recently which showed that 84% of Canadians want to get rid of nuclear weapons and support the new treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. And similar polls have been taken in Europe, and there's quite a bit of action going around the world, particularly as we see the development of the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. So if there is this movement, and there is very much a discernible movement forward, why do we still have them? Well, the answer, of course, is the military-industrial complex, which drives American foreign policy, American military policy to an egregious degree. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute publishes an annual report on the state of nuclear weapons in the world, and the report for this year has just come out. And it is said that despite the COVID and the need of more money going to health-related issues and human-centered conditions, the number of nuclear weapons is not declining. It's hovering at around 13,000, and that more indescribable amounts of money are being put in by the 9 nuclear weapon states, particularly led by the United States, which is 10 times more powerful militarily than the next number of nations. And so there is a real responsibility for the U.S. to take a leadership role in straightening out the antipathy that is marked relations between the major powers, particularly China and the US and Russia and the US. And so now we have the promising entry into this field of President Joe Biden, whom I have certainly supported in his desire that he expressed. He expressed it very strongly when he was vice president of the United States, a desire to have a nuclear weapons-free world. That is the title of our session that we're having here right now, a nuclear weapons world. Can we get to it? Well, here's the president of the United States who says he wants to get to it. So I would say let's give him a challenge and support from other nations. And I am always working on getting the Canadian government to support moves forward by the United States. Now, the most recent move has been the summit held by President Biden and President Putin of Russia, which was held in Geneva 10 days or so ago. And at that summit, it was, I wouldn't call it, an astounding revelations, but certainly there were some promising gains that were made. Namely, the two leaders reaffirmed the statement made by President Reagan and of the United States and President Gorbachev of the then Soviet Union in 1985, a statement that said, a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. That is a seminal statement upon which an architecture of nuclear disarmament treaties can and must be built. And what we have seen since that statement was made in 1985 is a deterioration. I followed this thing very carefully, and there's been a deterioration of the participation in treaties and the interest of governments in trying to do more to reach a nuclear weapons-free world. And so Mr. Biden and Mr. Putin further agreed to set in motion a strategic dialogue. This is quite an important step, that both governments have now formally committed themselves to a set of discussions, which one hopes will morph into negotiations toward serious reductions in nuclear weapons. They're not yet talking about elimination, but at least serious reductions that would bring down the number of nuclear weapons to levels where the other three members of the Security Council who have nuclear weapons, namely China, the United Kingdom, and France, would then join into what would then be a comprehensive set of negotiations toward the elimination of nuclear weapons. That is what has been called for 50 years ago by the Non-Proliferation Treaty. It's now marking its 50th anniversary. And under Article 6 of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, nations are obliged to negotiate in good faith toward the elimination of nuclear weapons. So we have a structure on our side that we need to protect, even though it has been eroded over these past. Not some people point to only the Trump years, but I mean it's wider than that. It's been an erosion going on for a number of years that has brought the danger, the level of danger to shockingly high levels. And the doomsday clock organized by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists has now set the level of danger to 100 seconds before midnight. And that is a very high level of danger. There's a high level of nuclear weapons. There's an immense amount of money still being spent on them. And it is grossly immoral to pursue this alleged kind of security, which we know would be the ultimate insecurity, particularly at a time when the COVID-19 virus has plunged into our hearts an understanding of how vulnerable we all are to disease and to problems that cross borders and underline how much we are interconnected and how much we need one another. And so I want to just say finally in this that I listened to one of these webinars that we're now having, just held the other day. It was composed of experts. I did not participate in it, but it was experts of Russia and the United States. And they were going down into the weeds on these things. And it reminded me once again of what I had observed when I was an ambassador, when I was working at the United Nations for many years, and namely that the United States and Russia by themselves cannot obtain nuclear disarmament. They are just too entangled in each other's problems. Nor can the experts, these technical people, and I do not dismiss them or denigrate them in any sense. They're all fine people and highly knowledgeable, but they cannot get to nuclear disarmament because they're down into the nuts and bolts, and there's always a reason why you can't do something, and then they put everything in about several baskets, as they call it, and then they're interchanged, and you never get anywhere. The only way to achieve nuclear disarmament is a moral crusade, a humanitarian endeavor, a recognition that, as the International Court of Justice said in its ruling, of which now today is the 25th anniversary of the ruling in 1996, that any threat or use of nuclear weapons would generally contravene every aspect of humanitarian law. It is the humanity that is at stake. It's a core issue. We've got to resist being drawn into a never-ending voracious cycle of arguments about the technicalities about how many levels of this type of nuclear weapon, how many levels of that one, and the countries and so on. There needs to be a humanitarian push for the protection of God's creation. That is what is at stake. So I sincerely congratulate all the organizers and the backers of this meeting we're having now, recognizing that with some cosmic humility, we may all be able to make some progress. Thank you.
Monica, you're on mute.
I thank you for the moral call that you have echoed. We know we need to move there. And you've given us, along with Bishop Swing, this cosmic humility. I'd like to add an indigenous quote right here before I introduce our next speaker. And this comes from Grandfather Harry Bird. And he said, "A heartfelt prayer is more powerful than a nuclear bomb." I don't think we can get there by prayer alone, but we need to call on it and we've been using the nuclear prayer for a while. We will continue to use that and bring hearts into it. Thank you so much for setting the stage again. And we're moving into a different perspective of why we need to abolish nuclear weapons. Kathleen Birkenshaw, I am so grateful that you are with us today. You're on mute now, you can unmute. And you are a Japanese American woman. Your mother was a Habakasha. She survived Hiroshima. And survival has had a deep impact on your personal and physical story. And you have made the transformation of dealing with it through the arts and by adding your inspiration. The Last Cherry Blossom is her book. It is being used as recommended by the UN Office of Disarmament Affairs for teachers and students. Kathleen, please share your story, which will really expand our reason for this moral call to action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica. I also want to thank Ms. Basu for inviting me to be on this panel with all of these esteemed individuals who've been using their voice and continue to use their voice for nuclear disarmament. My mother, Toshiko Ishikawa, was standing outside chatting with her best friend on August 6th when an ear-shattering popping noise and then an intense burst of white light caused the ground to shake, and my mother and her best friend clung to each other screaming. By the end of the day, she would have watched her papa die, would lose her best friend and most of her classmates, adding to the number of 80,000 people who died immediately or within hours of the bomb being dropped. She lost her home, and over the next few years, she would lose the family members that she grew up with. My mom was 12 years old, too young to fully grasp what exactly was happening to them and why, and what kind of weapon was used, yet old enough to never forget those memories of horror and death that she relived in her nightmares until she passed away in 2015 at the age of 82. My path to using my voice for nuclear disarmament really started with my daughter's voice. My daughter was in 7th grade, and this is about 11 years back now, and she had been very upset because she overheard students talking about that cool mushroom cloud. And she asked if I would go and speak about the people under those clouds that day, like her grandma. My mother was a very private person, and she did not really divulge a lot of what happened on August 6th to me until I was 31. I had just gotten out of the hospital after being sick for over a month, and my parents helped take care of me, and my daughter was 4 then while my husband worked. I received the diagnosis of Reflex Sympathetic Dystrophy, which is a chronic progressive neurological pain disease that affects your sympathetic nervous system as well as your immune system. Doctors have said that the damage to my immune system is directly related to my mother being exposed to radiation in the atomic bombing. At the time of the diagnosis, I knew that I would have to give up my career. I wondered how I could be a mom to a 4-year-old, as I could no longer walk unaided. And I really began to sink into a depression and hopelessness. That was when my mother started to talk to me about August 6th and her memories of that. She told me also that she had planned to commit suicide, but when she was standing on the bridge, she just kept hearing her papa's stories of the pride and the honor of their samurai ancestors, and she didn't want to disappoint her papa. She was so glad that she didn't, because she now had me and my daughter to love. And she reminded me that I had that same blood flowing through my veins, and I would have the strength to find my own way. So when my daughter was in 7th grade, my mother finally decided that I could talk about her memories. She did this because she knew that the students in the class would all be around the same age that she was when the bomb was dropped, and she hoped they could relate to her story more. And more importantly, she knew that they would all be voters someday, and she wanted them to understand that nuclear weapons should never be used again. I wrote my book, The Last Cherry Blossom, because I wanted to be able to show the life of a Japanese family during the last year of World War II in Hiroshima. It was something that hadn't been done before, and I also wanted them to be able to see the destruction of August 6th through my mother's 12-year-old eyes. She lost so much that day, but she never lost the ability to love. And yet, by being a second-generation Baksha, I also lived with her scars of the atomic bombing, whether it was in my childhood, watching and reacting to her PTSD symptoms that she didn't understand, I didn't understand. And now, as I have to live each day battling reflex sympathetic dystrophy. My mom was the bravest person that I will ever know, and I am so honored that she entrusted me with her memories. And it's her strength that really emboldens me to push through the pain and to continue to tell her story to students and to talk about through The Last Cherry Blossom. Because I've had that privilege to be able to speak with thousands of students around the world in the past 10 years. And the one thing that they say stood out to them, more so than the statistics and the research and the treaties, which I do discuss because they are extremely important. But the one thing that calls them to action is the story of that 12-year-old little girl and how quickly and easily it could be them. So we're 76 years out. Obviously, our technology has changed. We're able to communicate in so many different ways. But that need for human connection through our emotions, that is timeless. And so I feel that in order for the treaties and the statistics and the research to make sense and to really touch the heart of future voters and leaders, is they need to hear the stories of the hearts broken and the lives shattered and the homes and the loved ones who've been lost and the ones that lived their lifetime of physical and emotional scars. Because if they can make that connection to the people under those now famous mushroom clouds, then that will make all the difference. When I received my publishing contract, it was 3 months before my mother passed away. And I remember giving her the contract to look at. And she put it next to a picture that always had a place of honor in our home. And that's this one here of her and her papa. She loved her papa more than anything. And he was her favorite person in the whole world. And so she turned to me and she said, I never knew why I was still alive when I lost everyone that I loved. But she said, I finally know. I had you, and you can be my voice to tell the story of my papa and to honor him. But I do it to honor her as well. So I'm very grateful for all of you recognizing that my mother's voice and the voices of the atomic bomb victims and of nuclear disasters and victims of nuclear testing, that their voices deserve and must be heard so that no family ever has to live through that again. Thank you.
Monica, you're on mute.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I join you in your tears. I also know that your mother has to be so proud of you, that anyone who died that day knows that their story is being treasured and that it's up to us to remember this and to pass it along and to connect in a deep spiritual and personal connection as we absolutely work to rid this world of nuclear weapons. Thank you, Kathleen. I have the good fortune to continue this, and I'm going to do it with Kehkashan next, because I want Linda to end with an action for us, and she can frame the one that she wants to choose from her wonderful collection from the resource that Linda has done. Kehkashan, I'd like you to share from your perspective. Let me first say that as a student, an honor student, and the winner of more awards than anyone that I know at any age group, you have the founder and the president of the Green Hope Foundation. You have been speaking about both the environment and the nuclear abolition issue. You have been recognized as a UNICEF Child of Peace Award. You've been recognized on so many fronts. Two that I want to particularly highlight right now. You were chosen to be one of the 30 under 30 for Forbes magazine, and one that we're particularly proud of. You are the first award winner of the Gorbachev-Schultz Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons Award. Kehkashan, please share your story and your hope for how we move forward from your perspective.
Thank you very much, Monica. And I would just like to begin by thanking my fellow panelists. It's so wonderful to be here with all of you today to discuss such an important issue. And, you know, as my fellow panelists have stated, it has been a little more than 7.5 decades since, the atomic bombs dropped. And it's been exactly 7.5 decades since the UN General Assembly gathered in 1946 to adopt resolution number 1 that called for the establishment of a commission to deal with the problems raised by the discovery of atomic energy. Now, as a young person, I am deeply disturbed by the fact that we should have to wait this long to address an issue of such magnitude, a threat that can literally eliminate life on our planet in an instant. And the glaring irony of it all really befuddles me, more so because our policymakers and leaders who call for our votes ostensibly to make life better for us can't really seem to agree upon obliterating this human-created threat, nuclear weapons, that is far more potent and lethal than anything known to us. And even when some nations do agree, as is in the case of the ratification of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, we have the Nuclear Club of Nations using older muscle and influence to coerce signatory nations to withdraw from it, as the previous USA administration did in 2019. And the presence of nuclear weapons means that our world is perpetually at the edge of a precipice, and the plunge of this edge can lead to global annihilation at any moment simply through the press of a button. Now, if we want the status quo to change, then we have to start by doing things differently. And that is our mission at Green Hope Foundation, where we use disarmament education to mainstream the topic of nuclear non-proliferation and abolition. Because for too long, it has thrived under this veil of secrecy and under the guise of national security. A nuclear catastrophe affects everyone, as we all know, and as with all disasters, its impact will be disproportionately felt by vulnerable sections of civil society, and that includes young people, women and girls, indigenous communities. So then why do we continue to leave behind our most marginalized constantly out of this dialogue? Now, the gender data gap is still very prevalent within the nuclear disarmament agenda. And in fact, valid gender data is extremely hard to come by. And the one defining source that is available, a report by the United Nations Institute for Disarmament Research, has shown a shockingly low representation of women between less than 20% to 30% in the highest levels of policy making regarding nuclear weapons and disarmament. And that is not even taking into account the fact that nuclear sourcing and waste siting on indigenous lands leads to radiation poisoning that affects and continues to affect indigenous women and girls the most, forever altering their lives and the lives of future generations of those communities. This exclusion is indeed ironic, given that history has shown us repeatedly that women have traditionally played the role of peace builders. And a truly peaceful and nuclear weapons-free future can only be realized when people of all genders are treated equally, as well as people of all ages, because children and youth are similarly left out of this dialogue. Why should this continue to be a topic of adult deliberation when this profligate spending on weapons prevents governments from investing in schools, in teachers, in employment creation? So that is why education forms the basis of our work at Green Hope Foundation through our We Want Books, Not Nukes campaign. If you're not aware, you cannot take action. So through our academies, our workshops, our conferences, we engage our youngest members of society so that we can instill in them the concept of empathy and love so that they can grow up to be responsible citizens who are able to take informed decisions for the future of humanity and the planet. We conducted the first ever international sustainability debate on the topic nuclear disarmament is the only route to world peace. Two of my fellow panelists today were judges at this debate. And in order to ensure ease of learning about nuclear disarmament for children, we use creative modes of communication such as music and art. For instance, we've composed our peace song and that encourages the students at our academies to communicate their ideas on peace and nuclear disarmament through similar means. And now our youngest member involved in our nuclear disarmament campaigns at Green Hope is 6 years old. At Green Hope Foundation, we are strong proponents of reallocating the tremendous amounts of funds that are wasted on weapons of mass destruction. We, as a youth-run grassroots organization, do our bit to mitigate our world's greatest challenges, from installing solar streetlights and solar panels in villages in Bangladesh and Liberia to provide safe spaces for women and girls, as well as continuing their education, to trying to combat the increased levels of child marriage, lack of access to sexual and reproductive health and rights, and the increase in gender-based violence in areas affected most by climate change-induced disasters. And as I speak to you, my team in Liberia just finished planting mangroves in order to provide protection to biodiversity and to the coastal communities from natural disasters, thereby ensuring their safety and peace. Now, every single day, I talk to these girls, young people, women, and they all speak about the myriad challenges they face, their surrounding environments face. And it really makes me wonder, what has humanity become? How can we continue to condone the atrocities caused by nuclear weapons and the destruction and the destructive weapons that nuclear weapons are? How can we continue to do this while our planet suffers, while humanity suffers? Our resources must reach the farthest first instead of being wasted on nuclear weapons. One of my fellow panelists talked about the COVID-19 pandemic, and the pandemic has suddenly brought public attention to the fact that nations have been so profligate in their spending on arms and weapons of mass destruction while ignoring basic healthcare needs. So I believe that the moment is opportune for us as civil society representatives to mainstream this issue and bring into the public domain and consciousness the need for full transparency about the billions and trillions that are funneled into building and maintaining these arsenals. The primary way we can combat this right now is if we ensure that our young generations are educated about nuclear weapons, nuclear injustice, their threats, and given the right tools and skill sets. And to echo what Kathleen said, the stories of the destruction wrought by nuclear weapons, so that they are able to tackle this issue both in their childhood as well as when they grow up and come into positions of power. Disarmament education gives us that hope for the future. The process of rebuilding better, as we've spoken about repeatedly during this pandemic, is already replete with calls for multilateralism and cooperation, and leaders are under increased scrutiny and increased pressure to demonstrate better sense. So, let us build on this momentum to create the awareness through disarmament education and enhance public participation in our call for a world free of nuclear weapons, so that we can really ensure freedom, peace, and happiness for humanity and the planet. And let us make sure that this is the foundation of the new normal. Thank you. Monica, you're on mute.
I thought, okay, thank you. I want to thank you so much for sharing the programs that you are doing, for being an inspiration to your age group, older and younger, you running the spectrum on this, and for bringing up the word public participation at the end here. You are moving from education into participation, brings up our next speaker. Linda Catalda Modica has been a member of Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons. She spent quite a bit of time compiling a resource packet of actions. But before I let you choose one of those, I just want us to say, whatever you learned today, public participation and how we can expand that is something I hope you'll be thinking about as you listen to Linda's gems from the toolkit that she has created, or if you're going to put us in a different direction, that's all right too. It's your voice, Linda. We are honored to have you as being the voice from our cooperation circle, Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons, and your cooperation circle in Tennessee, and your years of activism and your years of dedication in bringing the spirit into what you do. So Linda, floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. It really, the honor is mine. And Monica, you are one of the two people I have met personally and had the opportunity to give a hug to in this room that we're sharing today. But and then the other person is Kathleen Birkenshaw. I had met Kathleen at a meeting in Asheville that was organized by Mary Olson, who at that time was working for the Nuclear Information Resource Service, and she had organized a gathering after the July 7th, 2017 accomplishment of the agreement by 122 nations to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And so it was an honor then to be in the same room physically, and it's an honor again to be and I met Monica at the end of the march, the very wet march of women that was organized by the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, to the UN Plaza, and there is where I saw Monica lifting up her URI poster, and so it's an honor to be with all of you on and in during World Unity Week, because we need prayer and we need guidance, spiritual guidance. I organized, when we were producing a session last month on the fact that it is 100 seconds to midnight. We wanted to bring together the movements of climate activists and anti-nuclear activists, and I was inspired by movements that I've been part of, peace movements, including in the Catholic Church, into which I was born. A way of organizing our thoughts and our aspirations and our reflections and our actions, and also information. And so I put together a prayer, what's called in general a prayer study action guide, and I will be revising it and updating it as we go along, and we'll be keeping it posted to our Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons website. But one thing that one prayer that I'm going to include, because it had not been released yet when I first put together the, well, actually it had been released, but I hadn't read it yet. I will, in the update to this Prayer Study Act guide, is a prayer to the Creator that Pope Francis ended Fratelli Tutti, his latest encyclical letter. And so I'd like to recite that now for all of us to reflect on, because it and you'll see one of the reasons why I'm doing this toward the end of the prayer. It goes, Lord, Father of our human family, you created all human beings equal in dignity. Pour forth into our hearts a fraternal spirit and inspire in us a dream of renewed encounter, dialogue, justice, and peace. Move us to create healthier societies and a more dignified world, a world without hunger, poverty, violence, and war. May our hearts be open to all the peoples and nations of the earth. May we recognize the goodness and beauty that you have sown in each of us, and thus forge bonds of unity, common projects, and dreams. So I chose to start this discussion that I'm privileged again to share with you because of the end of that prayer. Unity, here we are, World Unity Week. Common projects, the projects that we're talking about now, is a world free of nuclear weapons, and our shared dream for that reality. And so to move, there is an expression in activist circles and in faith communities in general, that you can pray with your feet. And so that's where I'm next going to go in the time that we have together, because we have an opportunity to have, well, not only to enjoy each other's company when we're working on this very difficult issue, this necessary work, which can be overwhelmingly challenging and depressing. When you hear a Secretary of the Navy say, I don't think we should deploy or even go there with respect to nuclear tipped missiles in attack submarines. And then you hear a U.S. congressperson say, "Oh, that's nonsense. We can't have this acting Secretary of the Navy say such things. We need to have all the armaments that we can make over and over and over again." Yes, it can become overwhelming. So that's why we need to pray, study, and act with conviction and with a sense of urgency, but with also a sense of joy. And so I appreciated the conversation that we have had, and I think that we need, and I want to stress certain, and I will put in the chat certain things that I think that could be done soon that will enrich our movement by including more people, more energy. And the first one is to join two movements that I am very excited about. One is global, and we are in a global stage discussion here today, and that's the No First Use global campaign. It will be officially launched on July 15th, and I will say that as a result of the fact that there was a presidential joint statement on strategic stability just a few days ago on June 16th, which reaffirmed the principle that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought, that would not have happened without activism. That would not have happened without the big push that was applied in previous administrations, and then again with this new administration for disarmament. And so I want everybody on this call, give yourself a pat on the back. You have to do this. You have to do this. Yes, I know we're supposed to be humble, Bishop Swing, but we've got to sometimes realize that some of the things that we do have an effect. And so give it up for some good activism. And that's number one. Number two,
I'm going to say we only have a few minutes left. We only have a few minutes
okay.
left. So give me
Okay,
number
then
two.
I will skip. No, I'll skip to number three.
Okay.
Celebrate. mentioned before that, well, of course, I said that we need to give each other an attagirl and an attaboy often, but we also need to celebrate. And on July 7th is the anniversary of 122 countries coming together to agree to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. That day is also going to be a day for organizing. So, and I will put together the other, in the third thing, work for the third reconstruction. The third reconstruction is the Poor People's Campaign movement. Once again, the Biden administration would not have gone with the tax credit that is going to have poverty in the United States, childhood poverty in the United States, without this kind of activism. And
Thank
this is
you,
the movement
Linda.
that we've
I
all
just
been waiting
really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing the passion of an activist, for calling on us to put our feet into action, and for taking the time to inspire us to do something. After this call, there's a few days before July 7th, let us make it a point to write to at least one official, to really stress the no first use, to talk about the treaty to prohibit nuclear weapons that has come into force and the importance. And I thank Senator Roche again for reminding us that the people in Canada called for, a huge number are calling for ending nuclear weapons. Let us get our voices out there as activists, as caring people. And I'm sure that this conversation has spurred much in so many of us. And there are probably lots of questions. We are not constrained to a time thing other than by the respect of what we've set up for an hour. But if there are questions, I want to encourage you, first of all, to go to the Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons website and to join us. We are going to leave with what Linda called upon us to do. We need to both celebrate as we work hard, as we pray, as we move forward. And so we are going to end after I get a quick note kind of from each of the speakers on a video that will include both the nuclear prayer and a look at a call to action, where it's going to be Pato Banton's call for a nuclear free world. I just would like to just start with Bishop Swing, was to just kind of say a response or a question or tell us where to go. You're mute, Bill.
Yeah, the one thing that I didn't mention, which I'd love to mention quickly, and that is we've invested a great deal in getting to the young people, to the 6-year-old, the 5-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 15-year-old. We have 3 things to roll out right now. I'm 85 years old. I don't need a whole lot of new video, but the kids who they need to have their eyes opened. And so we have 3 new videos for young people. If please give them a look. And if you can figure out a way of getting that video in front of young people at any level, that'd be great.
Thank you, Bill. Senator Roche, what would you like us to end with from you?
Well, thank you. This has been an illuminating session. I think that if everybody involved would write to their congressperson or their parliamentarian, that raising the political level of discussion is a concrete and productive action. We need to impress upon the decision makers the humanitarian argument for a nuclear weapons-free world and how urgent that is. And every one of us, I think, should make a commitment to speak and write publicly on this.
Thank you. Kehkashan, what would you like to add?
I would like to agree with my fellow panelists and to say that in all of what we have done in our work and from what we've heard, it is a clear indication that the nuclear club of nations and the decision makers that are within them aren't that serious about solving this issue, because if they were, a solution would have been found. Because for a lot of decision makers, it is a heady cocktail of power and monetary gain that a nuclear arsenal provides that motivates them to continue investing in it while going through the motions of protracted discussions on non-proliferation and elimination. So that is why I would like to reiterate how important education is and why it's so critical to disarmament education, so that we can create empathetic, global, responsible citizens who do not make the same mistakes as the past, and that disarmament education is for everyone, right from our youngest members of society to us as humanity as a whole.
Thank you so much. Kathleen.
I would just like to say, first of all, thank you for all the work that you are all doing. And it really touches my heart and it humbles me to know of all that's being done. And I think my biggest message is to remember the humanity that's under those mushroom clouds. The more that I'm able to speak with students to let them understand that the people are not that different from you, even if you think they're different or your enemy. And I think the more we look at the humanity and we connect, the better we can be to working towards nuclear disarmament.
Thank you so much. Linda.
Pray with your feet. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
In thanking our amazing speakers for their information, for their inspiration, and for their dedication to this issue, I'd like to take one of Linda's words, celebrate, and have us listen to the nuclear prayer and a little bit of words in song from Pato Batten, who did this for Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons. The sound isn't working, Dave. The sound is coming. Slight technical problems. I'm sorry, folks. Just started here, Dave. That's fine. With the sound. I'm hoping people who've heard this are singing it in their heads already, and it's really worth listening to, because it does leave us with what we need, which is not only the commitment to act and to pray, but to know that we have to add joy in the education, not from a joyous upbeat, but from a real knowing that we are passing along a truth. We'll try this one more time. I hope we can get it.
We're voices for a world free of nuclear weapons.
Please go full screen, Dave. Thank you.
May peace on earth prevail today. May peace on earth prevail. May peace on earth prevail today. May peace on earth prevail. We pray each day we pray for a world free of nuclear weapons. We pray, each day we pray for a world free of nuclear weapons. Yes, we're calling all leaders of humanity to end this atomic insanity that threatens our human family, jeopardizing our global ecology. We don't want to see another Hiroshima or a deadly accident either. No, no, no. We need a nuclear ban to protect our future generations. We pray, each day we pray for a world free of nuclear weapons. We pray, each day we pray for a world free of nuclear weapons. The beginning and the end are in your hands, O Creator of the universe. And in our hands, you have placed the fate of this planet. We, who are tested by having both creative and destructive power in our free will, turn to you in sober fear and in intoxicating hope. We ask for your guidance and to share in your imagination in our deliberations about the use of nuclear force. Help us to lift the fog of atomic darkness that hovers so pervasively over our earth, your earth, so that soon all eyes may see life magnified by your pure light. Bless all of us who wait today for your presence and who dedicate ourselves to achieve your intended peace and rightful equilibrium on earth. In the name of all that is holy and all that is hoped. Amen. Yes, we pray each day. We pray, yes, we pray each day. We pray, yes, we pray each day. We pray for a world free of nuclear weapons. Tick-tock goes the doomsday clock, but your children don't worry about that. You see actions speak louder than words, and in this vision we remain undeterred. We gotta let our leaders know our atomic bombs are the wrong way to go. Respect the nuclear ban treaty and focus on the poor and the needy. We pray each day. We pray for a world free of nuclear weapons. We pray each day. We pray for a world free of nuclear weapons. Yes, we pray each day. We pray, yes, we pray each day. We pray, yes, we pray each day. We pray for a world free of nuclear weapons.
Thank you, Dave. I wanted to thank everyone for being here. We don't have to rush out of the room for those who might want to stay around, but I know others have time constraints. I particularly wanted to show that film today, not just because the work went into it from the Voices people to create that. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, everyone who had anything to do with it. But Pato Banton filmed that with the people who are part of Unity Earth Week. All of these people have been showing up in various places. 100 of us were in the Holy Land a year ago in February for World Interfaith Harmony Week. And that led us into World Unity Week last summer. And here we are the following year. So the pictures of the people you saw there, you might even have recognized some of the people in them. I noticed there are a couple of us in this room who were in it. So I thank you so much, Bishop Swing, for that prayer. That prayer has taken off around the world. I don't know about other people, but I keep it right here by my computer. You can't see it with the light, but the action of prayers, reaching to political people, reaching out to get sermons and getting people talking about it at kitchen tables. We have the voice. We talked about voices. Read Kathleen's book. Check out the books done by Senator Roche. Bill, I'll plug your books too. I just am thrilled that we had this conversation today. So the official live broadcast on Facebook is closing. I thank those who watch it here. And if anybody wants to stay for a minute as we close, or we can say goodbye together, we'll go on screen with everyone and just say goodbye. And thank you for coming and spending your precious time with us to discuss an imperative issue. We can rid the world of nuclear weapons.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you so much, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. There's other programs on this stage at 3 o'clock. There's going to be one on UN issues and advocates if you want to use the same link and log back in. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.